Okay, have you ever had one of those moments where you're like halfway through a conversation
Yeah.
and you realize you and the other person are talking about completely different things?
Yeah, definitely.
Like you said ships, but they heard chips and the whole thing just went
Oh,
sideways.
yeah. Been there for sure.
It makes you wonder why communication is so tricky sometimes.
Right. Like you'd think it'd be the easiest thing in the world.
You would. So that's exactly what we're diving into today with this video called
Unlocking success.
Unlocking Success.
Yeah.
Mastering communication skills.
Catchy title.
Very catchy. And to be honest, when I first saw it, I was like, ugh, another self-help thing.
I get it. But you know what? Getting into it for this deep dive,
Yeah,
there's actually some really good stuff here.
I think so too. There's a lot of practical tips, which is what you want, right?
Totally.
But it also goes a little deeper into the psychology behind why certain communication techniques work.
It does, which is what I really liked about it.
Yeah, me too. It's not just like, do this, do that. It's like, here's why this works on people.
Exactly. And hopefully that helps make those tips stick.
Yeah, I think it will. All right, so one of the first things the video talks about is active listening.
Yep.
And I have to admit, when I saw that, I kind of rolled my eyes.
Really?
Yeah, like, isn't that obvious? Don't we all know how to listen?
Well, apparently not.
Apparently not. Because the video goes on to say that active listening is a real skill.
Okay.
Something you have to practice, not just something that happens automatically.
Interesting.
And the visuals in this part are really funny. They show these two people talking.
I remember that.
One is clearly just zoning out,
Mm-hmm.
while the other one is nodding along, making eye contact, leaning in.
Yeah, those visuals were pretty clear.
Right. So they're really driving home that point.
They are.
That active listening looks and feels different.
Okay, so I get that it's important, but why?
Okay, good question.
Is it just about being polite, or is there like a deeper reason?
It's deeper, for sure.
Think about a time when someone was really, truly listening to you.
Okay.
Not just waiting to jump in with their own 2 cents, but like really hanging on your every word. How'd that make you feel?
It made me feel heard.
Exactly.
Like what I was saying mattered to them.
You felt seen.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the magic of active listening.
Yeah.
You're showing the other person you value their thoughts and feelings, and that builds trust,
Oh, I see.
which, as the video points out,
Yeah.
is the bedrock of any good relationship. Personal, professional, you name it.
Wow. Okay. I'm starting to get why active listening is kind of a superpower then.
It is. It's not just about hearing the words. It's about really connecting with the person.
Makes sense.
And on that note, sometimes the words themselves
Yeah.
get in the way of that connection.
Okay. How so?
Well, have you ever been stuck listening to someone who just goes on and on and on?
Oh, gosh. Yes. Like they totally lose the plot.
Yeah, exactly. And the video has this hilarious split screen. One side is a long-winded speaker.
Yeah.
It's just droning on and on and on.
And you can see people in the audience just like tuning out.
Oh, yeah, totally. And then the other side of the screen is a concise speaker.
Getting right to the point.
Boom. Main idea, couple supporting details, done.
And everyone's engaged.
Right. Which I think highlights that brevity is so important, especially nowadays.
True.
I mean, we're all so bombarded with information.
Well, yeah,
We have short attention spans.
we do.
So getting to the point quickly
Yeah.
is a superpower in itself.
I never thought of it like that. So you're saying that being concise is actually a way of respecting the other person's time?
Totally. Like you're valuing their attention by not wasting it.
That makes a lot of sense.
And the video even gives a really simple tip.
Oh, what is it?
Start with your main idea first.
Okay.
Then add details only if needed. Don't bury the lead, as they say.
I like that. Get to the good stuff.
Right.
All right, so we've talked about listening well and being concise, but now this video threw a stat at me that I still can't get over.
What's that?
It said that over 90%
90%.
of communication is nonverbal.
It makes you wonder if we even need words at all.
Right. Like it's almost all about the stuff we're not saying.
Exactly. It's our body language, our facial expressions, our tone of voice, all of it sending signals.
It's like a whole secret language.
The secret language that everyone speaks, whether they know it or not.
I guess so. The video showed all these close-ups of people's faces.
I remember, yeah.
Smiling, nodding, making eye contact.
It's funny how much those little things can communicate, right?
It is. But why is eye contact so important? It seems so basic.
Well, think about it.
Okay.
When you're genuinely interested in what someone's saying,
Hmm.
don't your eyes kind of naturally go to theirs?
I guess so, yeah.
It's like primal,
It
a way of
sounds
showing we're engaged, that we're present.
It's like our eyes are saying, I'm here with you.
Exactly. And when you avoid eye contact, it can send the opposite message.
Oh, like you're not interested or you're hiding something.
Right, exactly. Or you're uncomfortable, which can be its own signal.
Okay, so eye contact, check. What about the rest of our body language, though? How does that play into things?
Oh, that's a whole world in itself. But imagine you're trying to talk to someone,
Okay.
and they've got their arms crossed,
Uh-huh.
body turned away from you,
Yeah.
big frown on their face.
Not very inviting.
No, not at all. So our body language can literally block people from even approaching us.
Whoa. Oh, I never thought of it like that.
But on the flip side, open body language can be like a welcome mat,
Oh, interesting.
inviting people in, making them feel comfortable to share.
So we're always communicating, even when we don't realize it.
There's like a constant stream of information.
Wow. It makes you really rethink how we interact with each other.
It does.
Yeah.
And the video's next point is all about getting feedback on our communication style, which,
Oh, yeah. That's something I struggle with.
Yeah.
Big time. Like asking for feedback always makes me nervous.
I hear that.
The video used these cheesy little thumbs up, thumbs down icons.
I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, but it got me thinking, why are we so afraid of constructive criticism?
Oh, it's so natural to fear judgment, especially about something as personal as how we communicate.
Totally.
But the video makes a really good point.
What's that?
Feedback, especially from people we trust,
Yeah.
is a center for growth.
I guess so.
It helps us see our blind spots, those little habits we might not even realize we have.
Oh, like when I say, like a million times?
Exactly. Or maybe you tend to interrupt,
Oh, yeah.
or you fidget when you get nervous.
I do that.
See? We all have these things,
We do.
and feedback helps us become aware of them so we can work on them.
That's a good way to think about it.
It's like having a coach,
Oh, okay.
someone who can watch you from the sidelines and give you pointers
Gotcha.
so you can improve your game, so to speak.
Okay, so receiving feedback is important. Is there a benefit to asking for it too?
Totally. When you ask for feedback, you show you're humble,
Yeah.
that you're willing to learn,
Okay.
and that you're serious about becoming a better communicator.
Makes sense.
And people respect that. They're more likely to invest in someone who's actively trying to improve.
I can see that. It's like you're saying, hey, I'm not perfect, but I'm working on it.
Exactly. And that vulnerability can actually make you more likable.
Makes sense.
Shows you're human.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground.
We have.
Active listening, being concise, expanding our conversational horizons.
Don't forget nonverbal cues.
Oh, right. And the power of feedback.
It's a lot.
It is. I kind of wish there was like a magic pill for communication, you know?
Wouldn't that be nice?
But alas, the video makes it clear. No shortcuts.
Yep.
Practice is key.
Practice, practice, practice.
And they show all these different ways to practice.
Yeah, like joining a public speaking group.
Oh, yeah.
Or practicing in front of a mirror.
I've done that. Felt a little silly.
We all do.
Yeah.
But it works.
True.
Or even just recording yourself and listening back.
That is a good idea.
So many options.
But it's not just about the quantity of practice, right? It's got to be smart practice, like focused on the things you want to improve.
Absolutely. It's about being intentional, figuring out what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are.
And tailoring your practice to those areas.
Exactly. Like training for a marathon. You don't just run randomly, right?
No, you got to have a plan.
Exactly. You have a plan, you track your progress, you adjust as needed.
So same with communication. Got to have a strategy.
Which brings us to the last point the video makes.
Okay.
And I think it's a really powerful one.
I'm intrigued.
It's about reflecting on your conversations.
Oh, interesting. So like taking notes afterwards?
It could be notes, yeah.
Huh.
Or just taking a few minutes to think about how it went.
Okay.
What went well, what could have been better, what you learned.
So kind of like being your own communication coach.
Exactly. Like watching a replay of the game.
I like that analogy.
So you can see where you excelled and where you need to improve.
So you're not just repeating the same mistakes over and over.
Right. Because reflecting helps you identify those patterns in your communication.
Oh, that's a good point.
Like maybe you always interrupt when you're excited,
Oh, yeah, guilty.
or you avoid eye contact when you're feeling insecure.
See, this is why I need to reflect more. It's like therapy for my communication.
It can be. And awareness is the first step to change.
Okay, that's really helpful.
I'm glad.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground today.
Yeah, we have.
I feel like this video is saying that anyone can become a better communicator.
Absolutely.
It's not some magical talent.
It's a skill.
It's a skill. You can learn it,
And prove it
improve it. Exactly.
with effort and practice.
Okay, I love that.
And this deep dive has given our listeners some great tools to start with.
It has, and I'm curious, dear listener, what resonated most with you?
Yeah. Which of these strategies are you most excited to try?
Hit us up on social media. Let us know.
We'd love to hear from you.
And here's a thought-provoking question to leave you with.
Okay, hit me.
The video focuses on individual success, right?
Right.
But what if everyone upped their communication game? Like, what impact would that have on groups, on society as a whole?
That's a big question.
It is. It makes you realize how powerful communication really is.
It's the foundation of everything.
How we connect, how we understand each other, how we build relationships.
It's everything.
Okay. I'm going to have to sit with that one for a while.
Me too.
We've covered so much today, but stay tuned because in part 2, we're going to tackle some specific communication challenges.
Ooh, like what?
Think dealing with conflict,
Okay.
giving effective feedback,
That's a good one.
and maybe even navigating those awkward silences.
I can't wait.
It's going to be good.
Awesome.
See you there.
See you there. Sometimes communication can feel less like a smooth conversation and more like navigating a minefield.
Oh, tell me about it, especially when things get a little, tense.
Exactly. But those tough conversations, the ones that make us squirm a little,
Yeah,
they're often the most important ones we can have.
that's a good point. It's easy to communicate when everything's going great. But it's those tricky situations, those moments of conflict or misunderstanding where our communication skills really get tested.
It's like a trial by fire.
It is. So where do we even begin with those kinds of conversations?
Well, the video starts by acknowledging that conflict is inevitable
Oh, for sure.
in any relationship, really.
Yeah, that's true.
Whether it's with a partner, a colleague, a family member, you name it.
Makes sense.
But here's the key takeaway. Conflict doesn't have to be destructive.
Okay, I like that. Reframing it, turning it into something positive.
Exactly. It can actually be an opportunity to deepen understanding and strengthen bonds.
Okay, but how do we actually do that? My instinct is usually to avoid conflict altogether.
I hear that a lot.
Right, like
Okay.
just sweep it under the rug and hope it goes away.
It's tempting, but avoidance usually just makes the problem worse,
Yeah, I guess it festers.
It festers, it grows, it becomes this big elephant in the room.
So what's the alternative?
Well, the video suggests a more proactive approach, addressing the conflict directly, but doing so in a way that's respectful and productive.
So it's not about winning or losing, it's about finding a solution that works for everyone.
Exactly. And it all starts with that active listening we talked about earlier.
Oh, right, really trying to understand the other person's perspective, even if you don't agree with it.
Exactly. Putting yourself in their shoes, trying to see the situation through their eyes.
That can be tough, especially when you feel like you're right.
It is. The video uses this great analogy of a dance.
Ooh, I like analogies.
Conflict is like a dance. It's about finding a rhythm together, a way to move through it without stepping on each other's toes.
I love that. It's about finding that flow, that harmony.
Yeah, exactly. But of course, sometimes those dance moves get a little messy.
Oh, yeah, especially when emotions run high.
Right. It's hard to stay calm and rational when you feel attacked or misunderstood.
Oh, it's like the music changes, the tempo speeds up, and suddenly everyone's stomping all over the dance floor.
That's a great way to put it. And that's where self-awareness becomes so important.
Okay, how so?
Well, recognizing your own triggers, those things that tend to push your buttons, is crucial.
Oh, yeah, like knowing your own dance moves so you don't trip over your own feet.
Exactly. If you can identify those hot spots, you can start to develop strategies for managing your emotions more effectively.
So it's like taking a deep breath, counting to 10, maybe even stepping off the dance floor for a moment to regain your composure.
Exactly. Give yourself that space to cool down before things escalate.
That makes a lot of sense. But what about when it's not just our own emotions we're dealing with, but also someone else's strong reactions?
That can be tough, but the video has some great tips for that too.
Okay, lay it on me.
It talks about the importance of validating the other person's feelings, even if you don't agree with them.
So it's like acknowledging their dance, even if it's not the same style as yours.
Exactly. Just saying something like, I understand that you're feeling frustrated, can go a long way in diffusing tension.
It's like saying, hey, I see you, I hear you, your feelings are valid.
Exactly. It's about creating that space for empathy and understanding.
That's so important. But what about setting boundaries? Sometimes, even with the best intentions, conflicts can escalate.
Absolutely. And the video emphasizes the importance of assertive communication.
Okay, so what does that look like in practice?
It's about clearly and calmly stating your needs and expectations without resorting to aggression or passivity.
So it's like setting boundaries on the dance floor. You can still dance together, but you're not going to let anyone step on your toes.
That's a great analogy. And remember, it's okay to say no to disagree, and to set limits on what you're willing to tolerate.
So it's about protecting yourself while still being open to communication.
Exactly. You're allowed to have your own space on the dance floor.
Okay, that makes sense. But sometimes, even with all the right moves, conflicts can reach an impasse.
Oh, absolutely. And the video suggests that taking a break, giving everyone a chance to cool down and regroup, can be incredibly beneficial.
So it's like calling a timeout in the dance competition.
Precisely. It allows everyone to catch their breath, regain their composure, and come back with a fresh perspective.
Sometimes you just need to step off the dance floor for a minute, let the music die down.
Exactly. And sometimes that's all it takes to find a resolution.
Okay, so we've tackled conflict, which is never easy.
It's a tough dance, for sure.
But let's move on to another communication challenge that often feels like walking a tightrope: giving feedback.
Ah, yes, feedback. The art of delivering constructive criticism without crushing someone's soul.
It's a delicate dance, for sure. Earlier, we talked about the importance of asking for feedback, but giving feedback effectively is a whole other ballgame.
It is. And the video highlights a crucial distinction between giving feedback and giving criticism.
Okay, what's the difference?
Criticism often feels personal and judgmental, while feedback is more about offering constructive observations and suggestions for improvement.
So it's about focusing on the behavior, not the person.
Exactly. The video uses this great visual. A person giving feedback is holding a mirror, not a weapon.
Oh, I like that.
They're reflecting back to the other person what they see, not attacking him.
It's about helping them see themselves more clearly.
Exactly. But how do we actually deliver feedback in a way that's helpful, not hurtful?
That's the million-dollar question, right? I always worry about coming across as too critical or making the other person feel defensive.
It's a common concern. And the video offers some practical tips.
Okay, I'm all ears.
First, it's about choosing the right time and place. Giving feedback in public or when emotions are running high is rarely effective.
Right, no one wants to be called out on the dance floor.
Exactly. It's important to create a safe and private space for the conversation.
So setting the stage for a constructive conversation, not an ambush.
Exactly. And then it's about focusing on specific behaviors, not making sweeping generalizations.
So instead of saying, "you're always late," try saying, "I noticed that you were late to the last 3 meetings."
Perfect. It's about being precise and objective, sticking to the facts.
And I imagine it's also about the tone we use. Like, there's a big difference between saying, "You really messed up that presentation," and "I noticed a few things in your presentation that could be improved."
You're absolutely right. Tone is everything. The video emphasizes the importance of using I statements, which focus on your own observations and feelings, rather than you statements, which can feel accusatory.
So instead of saying, "You're not a good listener," you might say, "I felt like I wasn't being heard during our conversation."
Exactly. It shifts the focus from blame to observation.
That's a subtle but powerful shift, right? It takes the sting out of the feedback.
Exactly. And it invites the other person to reflect on their behavior without feeling attacked.
Okay, that makes sense. But what about those times when the feedback is about something more serious, like a performance issue at work? How do we deliver that kind of feedback without demoralizing the other person?
That's a tough one, for sure. The video suggests framing the feedback as an opportunity for growth, not a punishment.
So it's not about paring them down, it's about helping them build themselves up.
Exactly. Focus on the positive aspects of their performance, highlight their strengths, and then offer specific suggestions for improvement.
So it's like a sandwich. Start with something positive, then deliver the feedback, and then end on another positive note.
I love that analogy, the feedback sandwich.
Right. It makes it a little easier to swallow.
But what about when the feedback is less about performance and more about personal habits or behaviors? Those can be even trickier to navigate.
Oh, for sure. Like, how do you tell someone their dance moves are a little too enthusiastic without hurting their feelings?
Those conversations can be tough, but the same principles apply. It's about being clear, respectful, and focusing on the impact of the behavior.
So instead of saying, "You're always interrupting me," you might say, "When you interrupt me, it makes me feel like my thoughts aren't valued."
Exactly. You're connecting the behavior to a feeling, which makes it more relatable and less accusatory.
Okay, that makes sense. But what if the other person doesn't receive the feedback well? What if they get defensive or shut down?
That's always a possibility, and it's important to remember that you can't control how someone else reacts.
Right, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink.
Exactly. Your responsibility is to deliver the feedback in a clear, constructive, and respectful way. It's up to the other person to decide how they want to receive it.
So you plant the seed, but you can't force it to grow.
Precisely. And sometimes that seed takes time to germinate. The other person might need some time to process the feedback and decide what to do with it.
Okay, so we've talked about conflict and feedback, two communication challenges that can feel pretty daunting.
They're definitely not easy dances to master.
But what about those times when the challenge isn't so much about what to say, but what not to say? Those awkward silences, those moments when the conversation just seems to stall.
Yes. The dreaded silence. It can feel like an eternity, especially in social situations.
It's like the music stops and everyone's just standing there, awkwardly shuffling their feet.
But the video actually reframes silence as a valuable tool, not something to be feared.
Wait, really?
It points out that silence can be a space for reflection, for processing information, and for gathering your thoughts.
So it's not always a bad thing. Like, sometimes it's okay to just be quiet.
Exactly. The video uses the analogy of a musical score. Silence is like the rests between the notes, the pauses that give the music its rhythm and depth.
Oh, I like that. It's not about filling every moment with sound. It's about finding the right balance between speaking and listening.
Exactly. Silence can be a powerful tool for creating that balance.
So it's about embracing the quiet moments, not dreading them.
Precisely. And sometimes those silences can actually lead to deeper connection.
How so?
Well, when we allow space for reflection, we're giving ourselves and the other person a chance to think more deeply and to come up with more thoughtful responses.
It's like giving the conversation a chance to breathe.
Exactly. And sometimes those breaths are exactly what we need to move the conversation forward in a more meaningful way.
Okay, this has been so insightful. We've tackled some really tough communication challenges today: conflict, feedback, even those awkward silences.
Yeah. It's been quite the dance marathon.
It has. But it's clear that communication is more than just words. It's about understanding the nuances, the unspoken cues, and the emotional landscape of our interactions.
It's a constantly evolving process, a dance we're all learning as we go.
And that's what makes it so fascinating and challenging, but ultimately so rewarding when we get it right.
Well said.
Wow, it's amazing to think we've already covered so much ground in this deep dive.
I know, right? From active listening all the way to awkward silences.
We've really gone deep.
We have. And it's really highlighted for me just how complex communication really is.
It is, and it's made me realize that it's so much more than just the words we say.
Right. It's about empathy, it's about intention, and it's about being willing to both listen and be heard.
It's like this whole intricate dance of signals and cues and emotions.
It really is. And just like any dance, mastering in it takes practice.
So much practice. But luckily, this deep dive has given our listeners a fantastic toolkit to start with.
Right. We talked about the power of active listening and how important it is to be concise and clear, especially in today's world where everyone's attention span is,
Short,
super short. And we explored the impact of nonverbal communication, that secret language we're all speaking, even when we don't realize it.
And we can't forget the importance of feedback, both giving and receiving it in a way that promotes growth.
Absolutely. Feedback is like fertilizer for our communication skills.
I love that. It helps us grow and blossom into, like, communication superstars.
Exactly. But as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm curious,
Yeah.
what's the one thing, the one golden nugget of wisdom that you hope our listeners take away from all of this?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think for me, it's that communication is a journey, not a destination.
I like
It's
that.
something we're constantly learning and evolving and adapting, just like any skill.
And the most important thing is to approach it with curiosity and a genuine desire to connect, even when it's messy or challenging.
Yeah, even when we stumble or make mistakes, it's all part of the process.
Exactly. It's about progress, not perfection.
Well said. So, to our listeners, as you navigate the wonderful and often challenging world of communication, remember to be kind to yourself, be open to learning, and most importantly, keep practicing.
And never underestimate the power of a well-crafted message, a genuine connection, and a heart that's truly open to listening.
Beautifully said. Thank you so much for joining us on this incredible deep dive into the fascinating world of communication.
It's been a pleasure.
We hope you've learned something new, gained some valuable insights, and feel inspired to continue your own communication journey.
And until next time, happy communicating.
Happy communicating.